Defender is fundamentally a subscription scoped thing, right? Like I'm going to light this up and it's going to protect everything in my subscription for a workload that I enable. So I go enable, Defender for servers. Great. Or let's pick one that it can only cover everything. So I go to Defender for app service. Every single app service, regardless of scope within that subscription, like if it lives, in this resource group over here, this resource group, like all of them are just now protected, versus that Defender for storage thing, which then I go light it up one piece at a time and turn it on that way. The other thing that I've seen that's very
storage accounts, it's the opposite way. You go turn it on and it lights it up for everything. It's on by default for everything. You have to go disable it.
Yes.
Yes. It's not you can light it up and then go enable it one by one. It's you light it up and then you have to go through. So in my case, like let's say they have 300 subscriptions, I'd have to go into the other 297 subscriptions and turn off every storage account across all those subscriptions after I enabled it. I can't just enable it and then say, let's go manually turn it on these 2 or 3.
You want me to give you like another little bit of nuance here that's probably going to annoy you even more?
Sure.
You don't enable Defender for Cloud for resources like that in the actual resource provider of the owning service. So like for a storage account, if you want to manipulate Defender for Cloud for storage accounts, you use the Defender for Cloud RP, their resource provider, to do that, which makes sense, right? Because it's a Defender piece of functionality. But I have seen like customer asks come in where they go, hey, you don't have a commandlet in storage, or I can't do this through your API. And it's like, well, because it's not us that did it, right? It's the Defender team that did it. They own it. We give you the storage account, and now you wanted to do something else with an additive service that was technically outside of storage. Like, all right, you've got to go potentially solve for that one and figure it out. So Defender becomes kind of a wonky service in that way, because it's really like a big bundle and then a bunch of attributes that are applied to it for workloads. And then you can potentially get really granular and go down to the resource level. But that's all dependent upon the Defender resource provider and their billing model and all the things that they do there. But I think another interesting thing that came out of the conversation we were having was I'm starting to talk to more and more customers where there's this inherent just fear of additional operational complexity around having multiple subscriptions in Azure. And I totally get it. Like if you've been doing Azure since the ASM days, or I'll say pre-management groups in Azure AD, Entra ID, all that stuff. Like if that's the mindset you're coming from and you've never played with management groups, then I think multi-subscription gets a little bit scary. Like it's tough. How do you have insights into things? How do you deploy policy at scale? All that good kind of stuff. The other thing that I run into is customers get scared of multiple subscriptions because they think multiple subscriptions means a bunch of manual process. Like, I'm a customer on an MCA. Like I transitioned from an EA, an enterprise agreement, over to a Microsoft customer agreement. And because I made that transition, now I'm just like, I'm on some kind of different plan. I don't know what I'm doing over here. If I want to create a new subscription, I'm going to go out to my licensing portal and spin it up that way. The portal that I still remember and is near and dear to my heart is the EA portal. Like I went in there many a time and manually created a subscription. But you don't need to do that. Like there are avenues to programmatically create Azure subscriptions, and it's not for everybody. And when I say it's not for everybody, it's only available to certain classes of subscriptions or certain types. So specifically EA, MCA, and MPA subscriptions. But totally doable, right? Like, and then once you go down that path, like, so if I can programmatically create a subscription and I can manage all of my subscriptions at scale through management groups, at least in the lens of policy and getting that down. Like that's kind of two big buckets for me. And then I think the third leg of that chair tends to be security. So I also see customers that still don't necessarily grok the whole Azure AD, Entra ID isn't actually Azure thing. Like it's kind of like this meta service sitting out over here. So they go, oh, I have to create another subscription. Well, that means I need to redo all my security and I'm going to have another identity provider. And I got to go back and I got to do my security groups. Like, no. Let's take a step back, because now you have a tenant that holds your identity. You're going to take that new subscription and associate it with that existing tenant. So it gets all the existing security. You can use the same security groups, same enterprise apps, same SPNs, all that kind of stuff is available to you. Management groups are going to be the construct that lets you come back and apply policy consistently across one or more subscriptions that you've grouped together. And you can have, I forget how many levels to the hierarchy or management groups. There's like 8 or 9 levels, something like that.
I can't remember.
There's a ton of flexibility there that's available to you, but you need to shift your mindset a little bit out of like, oh, I'm doing everything manually, over to how do I automate that and start to move things forward a little bit.
So here you go.
And then if
you can have 10,000 management groups in a single AD tenant and 6 levels of depth, not including the root or the subscription. So you've got levels and lots you can create.
Yeah. And then I think the other thing to think about here is, and we got a couple of folks mentioned it in the chat, is if you're an SMB, like you're just a small business, really, like I get that there's friction, but how much friction is it for you to go to the Azure portal and just spin up a new subscription? Like next your way through it. Even if you're a PayGo customer, then you have to put a credit card on there. Like, heck, I do this as a PayGo customer. Like I have to keep some Azure subscriptions around as just PayGo subscriptions, because like there's only certain ways to get into functionality that I need, or I need visibility in the way customers see things versus the way they are in like our preview portals and stuff internally. And I just need them in like a bog standard subscription. So it's easy enough to do.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of it, and it's gonna sound harsh, and I know it's gonna sound harsh, but I don't mean it to be harsh. It's not as hard or as much friction as a lot of folks are thinking about it to be. Like once you sit down and think about it, like it does not take more than 5 minutes to create a new subscription if you just want to next your way through it. It's not like a 3-month project to figure it out and get it going, and start living your life that way.
Yeah, and even as a CSP, so I do indirect CSP stuff, and I have some clients that buy Azure subscriptions from me, and even from my side, same thing. They need a new subscription. It's like, sure, let me set one up for you. It takes me 30 seconds to go log into the portal, click new subscription. They're good to go. And I agree, like there was those questions in the Discord chat of like, someone asked typical number of subscriptions in a small business. Some people are saying at least 2. I think like at least, to your point and mine, some of it is because of my Azure credits, but I have like 12 Azure subscriptions, and there's me and Sean and I have JP doing it. Like there's 3 or 4 of us. But it allows me to separate stuff out. Like I can go flip on Microsoft Defender for Cloud to see it and make sure I'm only hitting like one of each resource type, so I'm not using a bunch of money to test it. To your point, I think people way under-create the number of subscriptions they realistically should. And I don't know that people put a lot of thought into it. Again, I'm going through this with another client right now where they have 5 or 6 subscriptions. We're going out to 11. We may even spin it out to even more for reasons like this. Like there's a lot of stuff at the subscription level. I think the other barrier I do see people run into with subscriptions, and it's something to think about, is how do you do your networking if you're going to start spanning a bunch of subscriptions? Because you do run into that a VNet, a network cannot span multiple subscriptions, so you end up having to do different things to connect these together. One could also argue it's good because it helps you separate out your networks and create maybe a true hub and spoke type model, separate out those networks, because maybe you shouldn't actually have all those resources in the same network anyways.
It's trade-offs and kind of rationalizing your way through it.